Alright. Welcome back to the podcast, back to Tomboy Official. Yeah, guys, sorry. I am struggling to record consistently. I have got a lot going on with this job application process. In the dailies, you will hear all of that updated, but I wanted to talk just a little bit more about this experience with seeing a doctor. That was a good experience, but as an LGBT person, what that experience was kind of like, even though it was a good experience, I don't know, it was a little weird. It was a little weird. I didn't really know what to say. So regarding some of the questions they were asking, a lot of it was just a little weird for me. So I did mention it already, but it's just something that's kind of in my mind a little bit that I wanted to talk about in a little more detail. I was kind of nervous, obviously. I always get a little nervous meeting new people, and especially when it's I know that my health could be better. I try, I'm trying to eat decent, and, I'm definitely seeing, some form of results. I've seen a little bit of results as far as things improving a little bit, and then, physically anyways, and then I've kind of been at a plateau for a while, which is fine. I'm trying to just kind of manage eating and exercising and caffeine and, stimulants like that, pre-workouts and sleep. I do find it a little hard to kind of manage the basic stuff like that. And I'm in the process of trying to talk to this psychiatrist at this one center that is not far from me. It's not the center, but it's a site that specifically said LGBT plus, and it's 4 miles, 5 miles max from me. I think it's pretty close by. It's the next city over, and even if it's on the other, all the way on the other side of that city, it's not that far at all. And so, I'm kind of wanting to see what it would be like to meet them. But also it's they're not answering the phones. So that to me is kind of a weird sign. They did call me back. I called this morning. They did call me back. But I tried to call back a little after 4 p.m. It's Friday, so they're probably not answering. But it's not even 5 p.m. yet, and they haven't answered, so I'm whatever. But to me, that's always kind of a weird sign, because it's well, what if I actually was a patient and started going in and needed something, and I can't get in touch with anybody? But I don't think that I have any kind of severity situation going on to a point where I can't wait till Monday to call or whatever. But yeah, the phone didn't even ring. It just went straight to voicemail this time. So I'm I think that they're not open. Or the lines are completely busy, but I think they're not open. Excuse me. So yeah, going back to the PCP. So it was the nurse that gave me those kind of questionnaires to fill out. It was on a wipeable, so you know how you use those markers? Those dry erase markers? It was on, it was 4 or 5 sheets of paper, front and back, one side English, one side Spanish. And they were held together by a ring, one single ring at the corner. And they were kind of heavily laminated with a thick lamination, so you could write on top of it. And then what they would do is just wipe it off. And so I put my marks in red. There was one part on the Spanish side that was marked in like a greenish color that the previous person had written, but I don't know who this person is, and there was already information, but they gave me like a different color marker, so I marked it, and I guess there's a last page that, you know, I mean, the nurse told me which ones to fill out, which I filled out, and then the last page I didn't actually fill out. So, and then the doctor was like, "Oh, you need to fill this one out too." So I filled it out right when we were meeting. And he just confirmed like, "Okay, like, is this the one you want? You know, is this your marking, like the ones in red?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he was like friendly and everything, and I don't know. I prefer male doctors. I don't know what that's all about. I know a lot of females prefer female doctors. I don't actually prefer female doctors. I don't know why. Like, I'm kind of just more comfortable talking to a guy doctor. Like, that for me is just kind of more comfortable, you know? Like, I kind of liked it. He asked me if I was into any kind of sports and stuff, and like, that was kind of cool. I was like, all right, like, you know, and like, I don't know, that was kind of a little later down the line, and, you know, but yeah, when, you know, he was going through a little bit of the questionnaire sheets on that laminated paper, and, you know, I was mostly talking about why I was there, like my energy and all this other stuff, and just stress of like transitioning out from one job, getting into a new one, and just losing sleep over that kind of stuff, and just kind of the general style of how things are going, the general flow of how things are going, how it's like things aren't like terrible, like I'm not like starving, I'm not unhoused, I'm not like suffering, I'm not completely broke, but I'm also not where I want to be exactly either. So that kind of stuff is like, it's kind of wearing on me. And, you know, I feel like he kind of got that. He was like, okay, like, you know, but I didn't really say it in that many words, but also, you know, I think he kind of understood what was going on. He's like, yeah, you worked in social work, and that's definitely hard work. You know, it makes sense that, you know, it's been impacting you even now, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that does make sense, you know. And so, yeah, and so, you know, when it comes to the questions, like, it was kind of interesting because I think he kind of asked, like, I can't remember how he asked it, but he was kind of like, I think he was asking, like, are you married or single or something like that. I can't remember. And I was like, I'm not married. And then was asking, like, are you, I don't know if he was asking if I'm, like, sexually active or involved. I don't remember the words he used, but it was kind of like a wording that was kind of more casual, kind of along the lines of like, are you sleeping with anybody kind of thing, and like, do you need to get tested, you know, and all that. And he was kind of just like, you know, what kind of interests do you have as far as like people that you date and things like that. And I was just kind of like, yeah, anybody, I just like nice people. And it was kind of an interesting comment that he made, not bad, but it was kind of just like, he was like, oh yeah, that's okay, you know, like, I don't remember what he said after that, but it was kind of like, that's okay, like, you know. And I was just thinking, like, for someone to say, like, that's okay, I mean, like, you know, I'm not, like, super picky. Maybe I'm a little sensitive about certain things, but, like, for someone to be like, oh, yeah, that's okay, you know, and it's like, I'm not assuming that it's not, I'm just saying it. And I wrote it on that paper, and so it's like, okay, like, I already circled it. And, you know, and he was kind of like, yeah, I know some of these questions might be a little uncomfortable, and, like, I'm like, I don't mind, you know, I don't really mind, you know, like, to me, I wasn't uncomfortable asking him asking me about that. It was just kind of like, I didn't really know where the conversation was going to go, because I was kind of like, okay, why is he asking me these things when it's already circled, you know? It was kind of weird, but it wasn't, like, being, like, intrusive. It was just, like, doctor asking questions kind of stuff, you know? And I was just answering the questions, and he starts asking, I don't remember, he starts talking about, like, a Pap smear and all this kind of stuff, and, like, if I need to get one and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I don't really, you know, because I didn't know what they were doing yesterday. Like, I was like, I don't know what the goal is today. Like, when yesterday I was thinking this, I don't know what the goal is today. I thought I was literally going in and asking for a referral And then that would be that. And no, I was going in and talking about what was going on, but, you know, they didn't really seem to have, like, a good grip on kind of, like, what I needed to do fully. Yeah, like, I mean, like, they did, like, they were just going through, like, all the stuff, like, doing the weight and the blood pressure, and, like, I didn't know that they were taking blood. I didn't know they were going to do any of that. I didn't know what was going on. I just expected that, hopefully, best case scenario, I go in and get some melatonin prescribed, and then I don't have to freaking, you know, pay for it out of pocket. And I was just hoping for that to be, like, what we did, and then somebody to schedule me to get an appointment for some new glasses before these get too ratty. And that was kind of what I had expected. And then I wasn't expecting this whole, like, assessment. Like, it was thorough enough that it's like, okay, if I went in and I really had some, like, major issue, it would have gotten covered yesterday. So I'm glad about that. But it was just kind of odd. You know, I felt a little odd with it, like, just a little bit, because I was like, I didn't know what to expect, and now we're doing, like, this whole, like, depression assessment and other types of assessment, like, do you need food, do you need all, and I feel like it's good, like, it's good that they do that, but at the same time, I didn't know that they were going to do that whole thing. And again, it wasn't super lengthy, it wasn't really frustrating. The part that's frustrating is that I have to go back in because they didn't finish doing something, or, like, something between the appointment and me leaving. They needed to do something again, and I don't know why, or I don't know what, and they didn't leave all the details in my voicemail. And so when I did schedule, you know, they rescheduled me to June 22nd, and I'm like, you know, I called this morning, I'm like, damn, that's so long away, you know, like, that's like over a month away, and then I could have had an appointment maybe about a month away, like a week earlier in June, and I'm like, damn. And so they did leave a message that by Tuesday, if they need me to come in sooner, they can kind of, like, reschedule me or whatever themselves. But according to the main system, I guess the person I talked to over the main line wasn't able to really, like, do anything about it. It's like they're able to just book the basic appointments, and that's it. They can only book what's available. And I'm like, damn, so now I gotta wait like another, like, 5 weeks, you know? And I'm like, I'll figure it out myself by this point. Like, I hope I'll be employed by that point, and I won't even have to be, like, dealing with all this other stuff, and hopefully I'll be well on my way to moving back to San Diego. Hopefully, like, I don't really know what's gonna happen in the next 5 weeks, but I'm like, well, I have an appointment, but I don't know if we're even counting this appointment, and I don't even know what happened, and I don't really know. I think the nurse worded it in the voicemail something along the lines of, like, the blood work. But I'm still thinking about, like, what, did something happen with the blood work? Was there something in it that they saw that was, like, weird? Like, was there something, like, I know that I didn't eat a lot, so I'm like, well, maybe, you know, like, I was low on iron or something, because I haven't been eating a lot, you know, like, not that I haven't been eating a lot, but, like, I was expecting to just go in real quick, get it done, go to the gym, come back and eat lunch, you know, so I wasn't really, like, knowing exactly what to expect. So I didn't really, you know, prepare to stay. It's getting really hot again, as usual. I didn't really prepare to stay that long, and I didn't know that, you know, they were going to be doing all that. But yeah, it was kind of awkward, you know, when he had this, the longest thing that he talked about was the Pap smear. And I'm just kind of like, okay. And I'm like, just like, I mean, clearly I'm like, I was not trying to do that yesterday. Like, I just came in, I thought I was just going to have some simple talking appointment. I didn't think we were doing anything like that. It's like, bro, like, I just met you. I'm not trying to, like, do all that. But I don't know. I didn't feel odd about it. I felt that he felt a little awkward talking about it. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't want to do it anyways. Like, that's not something that I'm, like, jumping to go, like, do. Like, you know, I don't know if there's any other kind of, like, alternative kind of thing, but I'm just kind of like, like, to me, it's kind of weird. Like, I feel like as a non-straight person, who isn't really too involved with, you know, people penetrating things. Like, I'm not too sure that that is really on my top list of priorities right now. Like, I don't feel like I have anything really going on that's concerning, and I understand that, like, you know, it is important to catch things early, but I'm kind of like, I don't really want to go out of my way to, like, schedule this, and especially because I'm like, let me see how I feel about the site. Like, I'm already not super impressed by, you know, not being able to schedule early, even though they want me to schedule again after the first day of seeing them. They already want me to reschedule. And it sounded more like they needed me to reschedule because of something yesterday, not because, like, because they did tell me to reschedule. They told me to call in July to reschedule for an appointment in August. Because, you know, it's like about every 3 months or so. And so that was the goal, was to call in July to schedule for an appointment in August. Not to call tomorrow to reschedule, you know. And the nurse didn't say as soon as possible or whatever. So I'm not sure if, like, the way I understood it is reschedule because they want to redo the blood work. That's what I understood. But I'm not really too sure if that's what is going on. And I couldn't really talk to anybody at that office specifically because the line disconnected. And so I'm kind of like, I don't really know what, you know. And so I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to get another appointment, I could probably just get another appointment with another doctor at another place. But I'm like, this one's easy to find. It's simple. Like, the parking is free. It's like 15 minutes away. It's nearby stuff that I go to, so I could run multiple errands. But also, it's like, if I start working soon, I mean, like, I might already have work by the time this appointment comes up. And so I don't even know if I'm going to qualify for these benefits anymore. I mean, I think I have 90 days or 30 days or something. I don't know. I think I have a while once I eventually start a new job. But yeah, that Pap Smear conversation was really kind of weird. I was just kind of like, that is not what I was trying to do today. And I don't think he was, like, mentioning to do it, like, now, but he was just kind of, like, putting it out there, which is true, that, like, you know, it is something that needs to get done. But I'm also kind of like, I don't really know about that, you know. Like, I already avoid doctors as it is, so to have them doing something like that, you know, is kind of like a little much. And, you know, I don't know. I was just getting curious. I'm like, how do they talk to this about queer? How do they have this conversation with queer people? Like, how do they talk about this kind of stuff? Because for someone like me, I already felt like it was a little bit awkward. I was like, this is a little awkward for me to, like, consider scheduling this appointment. Just, like, casually, like, oh, yeah, I'll schedule, you know, like, I'll schedule you for you to, like, brush my cervix. Like, go ahead, like, stick something up there, you know? Like, that to me is, like, weird. Like, to me, it's kind of weird. And I know it's a procedure, but also it's kind of, like, not really territory that a lot of us are kind of, like, always interested in. So it almost reminds me of when, you know, Brianne Williamson had this episode with Ashley Gavin and I think Mac Injemy. It was one of the episodes where, you know, Brianne Williamson was talking about how, you know, she had some doctor appointment where they had to put a camera, like a scope up in her, and, you know, because she has, like, a heart-shaped uterus or something, and they had to put some kind of camera up there to make sure things were going okay. And that process, the way she was describing it was, you know, the doctor was, like, in the room with her, like, watching her, like, put this thing up there, and she said it was almost like the size of like a dildo with like not a condom on it, but something like something that would be like something to shield it. So some kind of like a almost like a bag. She said kind of like a loose kind of plastic thing that kind of, I guess, protects from moisture. I guess I don't know what it's for exactly, but I'm just like, who thinks of these procedures? Like, to me, it's like, like, it's just weird to me, because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, like, I know it's a procedure. It's not sexual necessarily, like, but to me, it's kind of like, it kind of is. Like, it's not supposed to, like, get you turned on or anything. Like, I don't think any of this sounds appealing in any way. Like, none of it is like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go in and do that. Like, I don't have that mindset at all. I'm just like, dear God, like, I don't want to do any of that, Like, it just seems like weird. And I don't think that, I mean, I've never talked about these topics with, like, my straight female friends or other female friends for the most part. But I'm like, I don't really know. Like, that just seems a little bit too far. It just seems a little bit much. And I'm gonna maybe have to try to wrap my head around this procedure talk for a while. It just seems a little bit much to me. It just seems like, okay. And I don't know what it is. It's not so much that I don't think I would feel any different about it, really, a male or female doctor or provider, like, performing this procedure. Like, I don't think I'd feel any more comfortable if it was that specific nurse or that specific doctor, like the female nurse or the male doctor, or some random person that this is their role. I would probably prefer it to be somebody I'm never going to have to see or talk to again. But also, it's like, I don't want to get it done. Like, it's not just like like, I already don't like going to physicals, Like, it's already kind of like weird. Because it's like, there's all these choices to make, So I've already talked on here about, like, underwear and things like that, and like what you wear, what you don't wear, like what people prefer, what they don't prefer, and what I wear, what I like. And so it's kind of like, I already think about that. Like, this is already in the back of my mind. Like, I'm gonna go in there with my boxer briefs on and my freaking, like, sports bra and all this kind of like random stuff, and a baseball cap and my board shorts and all this kind of stuff, and be like, yeah, like, and then having all these conversations about, like, all these things. And it's kind of like, to me, it's a little I don't think uncomfortable explains it. It's a little, like, something just seems culturally off for me. Like, something just seems like, as an LGBT person, this stuff, like the one that Brian Williamson mentioned, and then, like, the other stuff that they were mentioning yesterday. And there's another episode, I think, on Chosen Family podcast, where Mac Ingemy is talking with Elena and Ashley Gavin, and Mac Ingemy is like, I don't like, she was raised with some kind of, like, really holistic approaches because of her family's religion, and I don't remember exactly what, or her family's, like, beliefs or something. So she's already got, like, an aversion towards doctors and appointments and all these things, and has to go get all these kind of procedures and things. And I wouldn't say I was raised with, like, an aversion towards healthcare. Definitely an aversion towards, like, sex, sexuality, body related stuff, like body image, body, I was, I would say, I feel like I was raised with a pretty unhealthy sense of body shame. Like, I do remember I've talked about these things before, but I do remember not that long. Oh, it was long ago. This was very long ago. It was before I was driving, but I was a little older when I started learning to swim. I'm not a good swimmer, but when I started learning how to swim, just like how to like float and like hold your breath and, you know, kick your legs and, you know, move your arms so that you can actually like paddle through the water and stuff. When I started learning how to swim, me and my brother and sister went. My sister was young enough that my mom had to go with her to the class, because it was like a child class. I want to say my sister was like 4 or 5. It was after. Let me see. When was this? This was after my. It was after I went with my New Zealand. Like my family has family friends that are from New Zealand, and they took us to San Clemente once. And I remember that dad, like he kind of like, you know how guys always pick up people. I don't know why men like to do this. It's such a stupid thing, but they just know that they can pick up somebody because they have more muscle, so they want to pick you up and throw you in the water all the time. And so of all the kids that was there, little kids, older kids, whatever, like I was older than all the other kids there because I'm older than my brother, older than my brother's friend, well, my friend too, but older than him, and older than all the other little kids that were, you know, that the mutual friend of me and my brother, because this was his parents, older than all of those younger siblings that he has. He has like 3 younger siblings. And so of course, you know, that dad goes and picks me up and tries to take me into the water, and he takes me pretty far out, and I'm just like, I can't swim, you know, but like I wasn't fighting it, but I'm just like, well, I can't swim, so like, you know, you can't like drop me out here. And I wasn't like enjoying it. And it's San Clemente, like the waves are freaking big. Like it's not like it's a beach where like the waves are small. And we're in there in the water and probably up to like his shoulders or something. And we just go in for a little bit and it's like fine, but I was kind of like, I was a little freaked out, but I was like, well, he's not going to let me drown and he's not going to like do anything to me. But it's like, that kind of stuff is like annoying. It's like, okay, you're going to like pick me up and take me out in the water. But like after that, I think he had like a conversation with my dad about like, oh, I didn't know your kids couldn't swim kind of thing. And then my dad, like shortly after that, during that summer, enrolled us in these swimming classes. And so we went to these swimming classes, and I was a little older. I just can't remember my age. I was younger than 18. I was younger than 16. But all those little siblings were like really young. Like they were young enough. They're in college now. No, they're all graduated from college now, actually, including my sister. And when we went on this San Clemente trip with that family, those kids were young enough that, you know, when we were cleaning off, getting into the car, they had like soap, like actual soap, bars of soap and stuff. And they were cleaning off, I guess the dad cleaned off one of the sons, like the youngest son, and then the youngest daughter. Again, both of them now are out of college. So this was long enough ago that when they were cleaning them off, putting them in the water, you know how little kids, like, they run around naked and stuff. So like when they were putting them through the water to like rinse off all the, like, you know, the ocean and the sand and all that before we got into the car. Because, you know, a lot of times, like, I was raised by the beach. Like, I think I've made that very clear. And like a lot of times it's like, well, I drive my own car or whatever, and like it's not uncommon to just like jump in your car with wet clothes on, or like whatever, like you're kind of dried off but you're not like fully clean. Like you wouldn't walk into the mall or walk into a store or go grocery shopping in the state that I come out of the beach sometimes. Like usually it's like I go in the water a little bit or the sand a little bit, and I'll at most rinse off or just like change my clothes, but I'm not like so afraid of the water. Like, but they kind of like showered with actual bars of soap, you know, because we were camping too. Like we were camping at a campsite, so it was like, what, we were going to go back to the campsite and then like pay the quarters for the actual showers, you know, or just shower for free at the beach because we were leaving from the beach. So it's like, to me it kind of made logical sense that we were actually like bathing in the, you know, in the shower. And I kind of just showered in the freaking shower, and it wasn't a big deal. But I didn't take my clothes off. Like I was old enough to be like with my clothes on, and they were young enough, the little kids were young enough to like not have their clothes on, and they were like young and crying, and like, you know, like they were so young, like they were so young that they were like crying, and like, you know how kids cry when they have to take a bath and all this kind of stuff sometimes, and like that's kind of the age range that I was at. And so when I learned to swim, I'm saying a lot, but basically when I learned to swim, I remember my mom buying swimsuits, for one for her and one for me, because I don't remember why, but I guess she went swimsuit shopping, and it's probably easier for her to just go by herself because she had 3 kids, and you know, so she went on her own time, knowing that we were going to start going to a public pool with these swimming classes at a certain time. She got the swimsuits early, and I remember her making this comment like, oh, I got one with like a little skirt like on it, like it was like a full like one piece swimsuit with a little skirt, so it was over like the bottom part, you know, like usually I would just throw on some board shorts or whatever over the bottom part, but yeah, they were kind of like, yeah, like she was kind of saying that. And then another thing I remember is like way back when I went to this like formal at school. I don't remember what grade I was in, but I went to some kind of formal, and I remember because I had my shoulders, you know, it was like a dress, you know, like with, I don't know what you call it, like it didn't have like sleeves. It wasn't sleeveless, but it had like fuck, I don't know. It was like those tank top type of sleeves. I don't know what the fuck they're called. Like basically it didn't have like full sleeves. It wasn't completely sleeveless. Like it wasn't just like the type that just has like the top to it with no like straps or anything, but it had like shoulder things, like short cut. I don't know, whatever. But she was like, oh, like, yeah, it's nice. This one has a shawl on it. So like, you know, and I'm just kind of like, in my head, I was like, I don't care if I'm at the beach or at the pool with like, without like the bottom part of my board shorts or whatever, and I don't care if I'm like at some formal thing. Like, I didn't want to wear a dress anyway, so for me it was like, fuck it, if it's like, if it has sleeves or no sleeves, or if it's short or long, like either way I don't want to wear any of this. So it didn't really make any difference to me like what it looked like. It wasn't the exposure so much as it was just the fact that I was having to wear it. And so, but things like that, like I grew up in a household where it's like people don't even hardly wear tank tops or like shorts. Like it'll be super hot outside. I hardly ever see my parents wear shorts. My mom, if she's kind of home alone, she'll kind of wear like a tank top and like long pants. Most of the time she wears long pants. My parents walk around a lot wearing scrubs. They wear scrubs like a lot. That's like the favorite outfit in our house of my parents, of just like walking around the house wearing scrubs, because I guess they're comfy, and you know. But yeah, I grew up with a lot of like shame around like having your shoulders out or having like bottom parts of your, you know, swimsuit out and stuff. Like, but to me, I was always like, well, if everyone else is doing it, I don't really feel like that weird. Like, I wouldn't walk around like wearing like a full like bikini or like a bathing suit or something by myself. But if I'm like at the beach or at the pool or something, I don't really mind it that much. But I never really got used to it, so now I kind of mind it. But I mean, like, I feel like if I probably wouldn't have been raised around like that kind of environment, or even like I think I've talked about this before too, like when we went on like trips, we would go on a lot of school trips and mission trips and stuff, and they would always tell us, you know, bring a swimsuit and flip-flops, like a swimsuit and flip-flops for the shower, you know, because it was like you weren't really supposed to be like naked, and like you could be, but it's like they assume that like even if you're in a shower with curtains or a door, that you're gonna want to have a swimsuit on in there because you feel like a little uncomfortable showering. Like for me, I was just like, fuck this, like I'm just gonna go in there without my clothes, like it's a shower, you know what I mean? Like, to me, I was never like thinking anything weird about it, but I always thought it was more weird, like that they always made extra layers. Like, I understood that like sometimes we were showering outside and we used sun showers. Like, if you don't know what those are, they're like these bags that you like put water inside of it and you just kind of leave it in the sun most of the day so that the bag kind of heats up with the sun. And then say if you shower in the evening, you go to shower in the evening and you hang it up kind of higher than your head basically. and you basically have like a shower spout, almost like a hose with like a little, like when you water your plants on those, like with those watering, it's called kettles. I don't know what the fuck anything is called, honestly. Those little things where you water your plants, and you kind of like pour the like kettle thing over your plants, and there's like this spout where like there's all these little, like, I have no clue what I'm talking about, but I know you know what I mean. Those watering cans for your plants, how it makes like a little spray kind of look. The shower head was almost like that. It was like, so that when the water was, when you could hang it up, hook it up, almost like a how people do those beer bong kind of things. Like when you're holding it up, the liquid isn't coming out, but when you pour it down, it kind of comes out. But because of the way the spout looks, it kind of sprays out like a shower a little bit, and so you can kind of shower that way. And you just rinse off and then soap up and then use it again to rinse off, and like rinse off all the suds and stuff. And that's how you can shower when you're camping and stuff. I don't know if those even exist. This is like old school stuff. Like, I don't even know. I only knew because our youth pastor was super outdoorsy, and I think he called them sun showers, and you can leave them out in the sun with the water in it so that the water gets heated up with the sun all day, and then when you shower in the evening, it's like warm water, so you're not taking like a cold bath like in like freezing cold water or whatever. Like, so we had those options. So I understood when they had those hooked up to the trees, like they were like on like in a line, like hooked up to the trees. It's like, okay, maybe wear a bathing suit there because like you're out in the open. Like, that made sense. But then like some other trips we went on, they made like little stalls, like individual stalls where you could kind of have more privacy. And it was like, okay, that's kind of weird to go in with all your bathing suit and all this kind of stuff on, and you go and wash off and rinse off and everything, and then you have to go and get out of these other wet clothes and then dry off and then put on your dry clothes. It was just like this whole ordeal, and I felt like it was better than nothing. Like, we got clean and everything. It was way better than not having any way to bathe. But I definitely would look at that when I was younger, and I was like, people really are so like concerned, and I understand, like, I'm not saying they should have just let teens be like running around naked and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, it was weird. Like, I grew up in this like religion that was so weird around like exposing body parts, like your arms, like too much of your arms or too much of your legs. Like, we had a dress code where your shorts could never be, and your skirt could never be more than 2 inches above your knees, and you couldn't really wear like cut off shirts or anything. They even had a dress code where you couldn't color your hair. You couldn't have what they called extreme hairstyles, and within those extreme hairstyles, boys couldn't have locks. And I'm kind of like, that's a little racist, but it's like, guys couldn't have braids or locks. They may have changed it since then, but I'm like, that to me is like a weird way of thinking. Is like, well, why is that considered inappropriate? That's cultural. It's not, like, I understand, like, yeah, punk haircuts with, like, mohawks and, like, blue hair and all that. Like, I know the mohawk isn't, like, it doesn't stem from, like, punk culture, but it's, like, I could kind of understand why someone's like, okay, we don't want you wearing, like, piercings and blue hair and all that kind of stuff. Like, I can kind of understand that, but, like, to kind of, like, monitor somebody's hairstyle, it's almost like saying, well, you can't have an afro. It's like, well, it's how my hair grows. Like, what do you want me to do about it, Like, I don't really see any problems with braids and locks and stuff, but they considered it in the dress code back then, like, an extreme hairstyle. And there was a lot of control stuff like that. But, I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. So, after hearing what Mac Injimi said about her experiences with, like, not really wanting to be so involved with doctors, after hearing what, what's her face? Brianne Williamson said also about not wanting to be, about her weird experience with the doctor. I don't know how, like, I would have, like, died of embarrassment. Like, that just seems like it's not too easy of a thing. And especially if somebody's in there watching you do it. It's like, dude, just, like, go to another room and at least let me, like, put this thing in me and then come back and, like, look at the results or whatever. Like, do you have to be here for it? And then the other thing, and when they're, like, swiping your cervix and things, it's like, okay, like, what the hell, you know? Like, to me, like, all this stuff seems like a little much. Like this seems like a little much. Like, I know it's a professional procedure. It's part of, like, you know, doctor and patient kind of, like, you need to kind of get that kind of stuff done, but it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody's comfortable with it. I don't think anybody really goes in and they're like, unless it's like a kink or something, like, I don't think anybody really goes in and is like super like, yes, I want to get this done. I want this to be done to me by some random doctor. Like, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of room for comfort for that kind of thing. And it's not supposed to be comfortable, but I also think it's a little much. And I know you're not, like, recommended to avoid it, but also it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get it done either. So, it just seems like a lot to go through, just to check for cancer. It's almost like I don't know anything about getting cancer, honestly. So it's easy for me to almost jokingly be like, oh yeah, I'd rather have cancer. Because I was telling the doctor too, I was like, well, it does make more sense to me to kind of have discomfort now versus like a near-death experience or possible risk of death later on in life just because you didn't get it checked. But it's also kind of like, isn't there another way? You know what I mean? Is there like any other method? Like, can't you like x-ray things or something? Like, can't you, like, I know they're like swiping and getting cells and like they need to examine the cells and things, but like, isn't there another way to get them? Like, there's got to be some other method, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't really know. Like, it just seems like a lot to have to deal with. And that's kind of like, a lot of these little things were kind of going through my mind. Like, after that doctor's appointment, I was like, holy shit, like, there's so much other stuff I have to do. And it's like, and I don't even know if the first appointment even counted for golly knows what reason they want me to schedule. And maybe the wording was wrong. Maybe they worded the voicemail wrong and they wanted me to schedule as in, oh, you need to reschedule an appointment. Not like, because that's what they told me. I do need to reschedule, like, for August. But maybe that's what she was doing, is just reminding me to schedule an appointment. The way I understood it, though, was, you know, your appointment from yesterday, we need either more information or something maybe happened where maybe the system deleted all my files or something. I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm not happy. It's a little bit of a stressful scenario to have to kind of figure out, and I am gonna have to figure out how to get this stuff done. It does not sound appealing in any way, but I don't know. I don't know what people think, because I know I'm not the only person that doesn't like this type of stuff. I don't know. I don't want to deter people from doing what they need to do for their health. But for me, for my own body and my own opinions about certain types of procedures, it's like for me, it's to me it seems like it's not sexy and it's not like something that turns me on, but it seems like too sexual to be something that I want to be doing with a doctor. Like, I know it's not considered sex necessarily, but I mean, if I was with somebody who was doing those types of things to me, I would be like, yeah, like, we had sex. Like, clearly I would have said, like, I would be like, that's what I would describe that as, you know, like, if it wasn't in a doctor's office. So I'm kind of like, well, I don't really know if they think about it, because maybe because the penis isn't going in there, they don't think much of it. They're like, well, it's not a penis, so it's not sex. But it's like, well, to some of us, when you're putting things in there, it is. So it's like, it doesn't have to be a penis. You can put all kinds of stuff in there and it's still considered a sexual act of some kind, even though it's not meant to be sexual. It is a medical procedure. But in my head, I think I have a hard time determining the difference, and maybe that's something that I can't really like describe very well to a straight doctor that kind of like, it's clearly straight and uncomfortable asking me questions about my queerness, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna like talk to you about my opinions about this procedure. Like, it's kind of like, it's not so much that it's uncomfortable because it's weird. It's more so it's uncomfortable because I consider it to be like a sexual thing. Even though I'm not turned on by it, it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, I want this to happen, or I'm gonna like the way this feels, or whatever. Like, or not like the way this feels, or think it's like, I just don't think I would do very well with that. I think I would maybe be a little upset, or I don't know if traumatized is the right word, but a little kind of like not okay with it. Just because of my ideas of how I kind of identify what the procedure actually requires. Like, to me, if somebody's putting a medical scope that's shaped like a dildo up in you, or putting a little brush thing or Q-tip type thing to brush your cervix or whatever, to me it's like that's not a very far move between a finger or a dildo or any type of sex toy or anything like that. To me, it's like all the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well just put anything else up in there. Like, it's, that's kind of, and I know that's not what it is, but my mind doesn't seem to be able to kind of easily wrap around that. And I don't really know what, maybe it's because, I'm just trying to wrap my head around things, and I'm like, well, maybe it's because in straight culture, if you're just putting medical devices in a thing inside of a vagina, if there's something going in there, it's not considered necessarily sex or sexual, because there's no man that has a penis that's doing it. And for me, I'm like, well, if anybody's penetrating anything, to me that's sexual. So I'm like, if somebody's putting something up my asshole or in my vagina, like, that's a sexual thing. Like, I don't care if it's a medical thing or a finger or a dildo or a sex toy or whatever the fuck. Like, I don't see the difference too much, other than the setting and who's doing it. And I don't know, like, I just think, I don't know if the medical field kind of looks at this at all, like, if other people think of it the same way I do. Like, it's easy to joke about it. It's easy to be like, oh yeah, it's just a medical procedure, go get it done. You're like, and it is kind of funny in a way, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I can budge on this one. Like, I'm not really interested in just letting people just, penetrate things, like, if I don't want that to happen, and I already know that I don't want it to happen. So I'm like, well, if I'm already not wanting it to happen, then what? You know what I mean? Because it's going to keep coming up in a medical chart that it's going to need to get done, and this conversation is going to keep coming up, and there's going to be this argument and lack of understanding of people being like, well, it's a medical procedure. I'm like, yeah, like, it is a medical procedure, but to me, it's like a little far. It's a little far, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's almost like if there's a guy that had to get some kind of penile procedure done for some reason, I don't know what, and they put like a flesh jack on the guy, and they're just like, I'm not saying it even has to be like a pleasure experience, but it's just kind of like, that's kind of like the equivalent of, in my mind, like, I don't like see myself as having a penis or anything. It's not, I don't think it matters if I did, but I'm just saying, like, to me, it's like, I don't think I don't think that if it was guys, that they would just be like, oh yeah, just like, I'll sit on this table and you can just put this thing, and they just be like cool with it, like, okay, fine, just go ahead, like, to me, I'm like, nah, because I know the doctors aren't there for that reason. Like, they've got to be awkward with it. Like, I don't know, and I never really understood either why certain doctors, like, bless them, like, I'm glad those doctors exist that do those types of procedures. Like, I'm not trying to like shit on them, but I do wonder, because I haven't done research, but I do wonder what other queer people think about these types of topics, because I'm kind of like, I don't know. This doesn't seem like something that the straights thought through very well. I think it's a very maybe heteronormative type of environment where they're like, well, this isn't sex or sexual because it's like a medical device. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know. There's still like this penetration aspect of things where it's like, if we're not getting away from that, I don't really see how, like, I don't know. In my head, I don't really see this going well. So it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around something that's like, it's not even so much like, okay, I don't want to get it done. Like, yeah, I don't want to get it done, but it's like, I'm maybe labeling it or interpreting it as something that I know it isn't. Like, in the medical field, they would not consider it as this, as what my head thinks. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't see the difference. It wouldn't matter what they put up there. I would still think of it as the same thing. Like, I know we're not having some kind of like sensual experience, and I'm not like having some crush or liking this person or hooking up with them. It's a doctor. Like, it's not, that's not what this is. Like, I understand that part fully, but what I don't understand is how, like, is there no other alternative? What if I don't want to do that? Like, is there some other option of things to do? So I don't really know. I mean, I don't know if I can talk to the doctor about it. We'll see. I mean, I don't mind bringing it up, but it's like, it just sounds like an awkward conversation to be like, yeah, I just met you last month and like, you mentioned this pap smear and I have some more ideas. Let me bring this weird ass like queer topic to you and pick your brain about this and like see what you think. Because I don't think they think about it like that. I think it's not going through their head. Like, of course they're probably like, okay, like they can understand probably where a person is coming from with this, but I think maybe in a lot of hetero people's minds, because it's not, a penis, I think that they don't really think about it. And in my head, I'm like, well, like, in my mind, I'm like, it's a very close, to me, it's like, I don't really see the difference too much, and I'm not too interested in having a doctor do that. Like, that's just my own preference. So I don't care which doctor it is. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe if you get somebody that I want to have in there doing that to me, then that would probably be a and I know they probably can't do that because it has to be a doctor because they're trained. But I'm like, well, if I was dating somebody and they wanted to put something in there, then go right on ahead and do it, Like, I would rather have somebody I'm dating do that or somebody I'm hooking up with do that than a doctor, which is maybe weird to say because I know it's a medical procedure. But I don't know. I could go on and on and on about this and say the same thing over and over. But I'm just I was wondering why I was so, like, confused about it yesterday. I was like, why are we even having this conversation? Like, in my head, I was like, no, like, this is not what I want to do. And especially yesterday, I was not trying to do it yesterday. That's not why I went in there. I gotta have some warning. You can't just like spring it on a person to just be like, oh, we're gonna do this now. It's like, no, we're not. But no, they weren't trying to like spring it on me. It was just part of the, what we need to schedule for the follow-ups and everything. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to put my brain to work on this stuff. I mean, I've got other stuff I need to be doing that isn't, thinking about like medical procedures and things, but it is something that I'm like, I don't know. It might be a little hard to detach my mindset from kind of like this heteronormative type of thinking of medical procedures. And I think it's not okay that I don't go to doctors all the time, but the reason why I don't is because it's just confusing. Like, there's always weird stuff that comes up that's like confusing to me a little bit. Like, when I was younger, it was always like a little odd. And, I used to go into the doctor's office, and like, I know my mom used to come in to physicals with me and stuff, and like, she was very like, I don't know, like, to me it was a little intrusive, but also it's kind of like, that's my mom, that's kind of how she is. And I didn't know better to ask to not have my mom there. And then, they kind of did ask, but I didn't really know that it was okay. And I remember once how she told me, like, I don't know, I think I was probably about, maybe when my brother was about 15 or 14 or something, she took him to his physical, and, he asked her to wait outside, and she told me about that. And she's like, yeah, he had me wait outside. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, of course he would have you wait outside. He's like a 15-year-old guy. Like, in my head, I'm like, you don't need to be in there with him unless he wants you in there. And I understand, how parents can be, but at the same time, it's like, damn. But I really don't think I've gone to doctors very consistently since I was a kid. Like, ever since it was left up to me, I just kind of just avoided it, honestly. Which isn't good. Like, I'm not saying I've never gone. Like, I've gone when I had to go on, like, certain trips out of the country and stuff, because I had to have a physical done. Sorry, I'm drinking water because I'm sitting in this hot car. But, yeah, it's a little hard for me to record, guys, lately, because I've had this car issue, and now that I have access to another car, I can record, but I just didn't record this morning. I was recording the daily episode this morning, and it was just a lot. So, I'm way off my game today. Like, I don't know. It's just, this is weird. It's all weird. I'm gonna have to think it through more. I'm gonna maybe research around and see what people say. I don't think that I maybe need to get more advice from the internet, but I mean, like, I don't know what else to do about it. As far as this psychiatrist's office, they're not really responding, and, it is an LGBT office, but, I think I do want to meet with LGBT staff as far as, like, doctors and providers. I think that's going to be a preference of mine. I mean, these doctors and nurses and stuff, my experience was good enough that I'm not like, okay, let me just like avoid meeting with them. Like, I feel like I'd rather have the nice ones than risk switching to someone else that maybe they're an LGBT person or understanding of things, but they're just not as nice, or maybe we don't get along as well. Like, I felt like this went well, so I'm like, I'm comfortable with them already. Not comfortable enough for them to be pap smearing me, but comfortable enough for, for the anxiety that I had going in. I was like, okay, at least it was a good enough experience. So I don't know. I've got a lot of thinking to do. Dude, it's freaking hot in here. It's not even a hot day. It's like a pretty cooled off day. And the marine layer is definitely coming in, but it gets hot sitting in this car. Back to the windows down. But yeah, for now, I don't know what else to say. I'm just going to leave it at that. That's it for now. Thanks for listening.